Hello everybody, this is SodaFan2K10 here, welcoming you to another Brio Thomas of Friends discussion, and in this one, we're going to be taking a look at our first character that doesn't move via road or rail. It's Cranky the Crane, introduced in Season 5 of Thomas and Friends. Now, I'm going to preface this discussion by saying that this isn't going to be like previous discussions, because normally we just stay with this opening shot here, but because of the fact that Cranky is such a different model, it's a very unique, very different shaped model. I don't really want to be handling him and, trying to twist him, turn him around in the camera. Particularly, trying to get a shot of his face, because I'm not really going to be able to get it head on and in the right orientation. So instead, we're going to be moving the camera closer to him to get a better look at all the detail of him. And also, there's a little bit more to talk about with Cranky than with other characters we've looked at. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to begin by looking at Cranky's cab section, which is arguably the most interesting part of him. We're going to take a look at the face, and I want to apologise really quick about this because I don't have any sort of studio lights or anything in this room. I'm just using the ceiling lights, so if Cranky casts a shadow on himself because of his crane arm, then I apologise for that. But let's go ahead and take a look at that face. I will say this, Cranky historically has been a very difficult character for me to film. He's featured in several episodes, and he's very difficult to film just because the camera doesn't really like to focus on his face all that much. And I don't really understand why. I think it's just because he's mainly green, he's mainly just a box shape, there's not a whole lot to him, and also his face is kind of small. So I don't know what the deal is, but I can never really get the camera to focus on it correctly. In fact, it's doing an okay job right now, but in terms of the face itself, I think this is a pretty good face. Cranky, by name or by nature, is a cranky character. He's not meant to be happy or anything, but I think this is a happy medium between getting him to look sort of happy, because we can't have Thomas characters looking angry or anything, but just like the shape of the eyes and what have you, it makes me think that perhaps they did design him with a cranky expression, but then they literally turned the frown upside down and gave him a smile. And he looks kind of mischievous, honestly, to me, but he doesn't look like he's happy, enjoying life or whatever. He looks like he's just putting on a smile, which is okay with me. I think it's okay. I don't think it represents any particular face from the CGI, not the CGI series, the TV series when he first appeared. But it's a good face nonetheless. There's a side view of him, very basic. He's got his nameplate up here. There's no paint application or anything, it's just the same colour. He's got this little blue rectangle there to represent a window, and then this grey section back here. I don't know anything about Cranky's basis, or if he has one even. I just know he's based on a tower crane, but I'm guessing this is supposed to be like a counterweight. The whole thing with Cranky is that he's affixed to the ground. He's bolted to the ground, or I think he's on like a concrete plinth. So if he has weight on his crane arm, he's not exactly going to go very far. But we've seen in several episodes that if he lifts something too heavy for him, then his top section literally breaks off. So that's what I'm guessing is this grey bit. I've never really understood what it is, but I'm guessing it's like a counterweight or something, so that he doesn't always tip over. There's a look at the back of him. It's just the back of what I'm presuming is the counterweight. And then the other side is very much the same. Nothing much else about that. It's always been debated how people actually get into Cranky to operate him, because he's never been depicted with a door. But I think in later CGI seasons, he is seen with... he has a ladder. The Brio model doesn't depict him with one, unfortunately. But he's depicted with like a hatch underneath him, underneath his cab. And I think that's how he just has like a floor hatch or whatever that an operator will climb up through. So looking at his crane arm really quick, let me see if we can get a better shot of it. Yeah, it's just a separate piece. It does swivel a little bit. We'll talk about that in just a moment. There's his representation of a hook. It's literally just like a black magnet. It's fairly long. I don't know why it needs to be that long. It could have been about half the size. I'm thinking of like the magnets used by the Breakdown Train or Rocky or Harvey, and I know none of those are made by Brio, but I'm thinking of something like that. But this works perfectly fine. I will show you how it goes up and down in just a moment, but oh, that's the wrong way. You know, it does move. Mine is, you know, this is a very old model, so it doesn't move very, it doesn't come down properly. It does take a little bit of effort to bring the hook down, but it works just fine, you know, as a magnet goes for Cranky. You notice these strings here? This is to hold his crane arm in place, and it does fold back, and I do want to show this because I think it's quite funny. But you can fold it back. I think that's for storage purposes, if I had to take any sort of guess. You know, because when it's out like this, if we were to throw Cranky in a box, you know, this whole thing's sticking out, you know, it's liable to break off. So I think they do it like that so that you can sort of, you know, store them away properly. But I look at this and I just laugh. I just think that this is, it looks like he's wearing like a backwards hat or something to me. I just think it's funny. So we will right that wrong. We'll put his crane arm back where it belongs. And yeah, that's about it for the top section of Cranky. So let's go ahead and look at the rest of him. Moving on down to what is obviously the lesser interesting part of Cranky, but for the sake of being thorough, we'll take a look at the main body part. As you can see, it's all just one piece. It's got a nice shape to it. It's tapered at the bottom, and it has all the little cross beams or whatever molded into the to the plastic there. So it does look pretty good. I personally do wish that these open areas, like the little triangles represented between all the cross beams, was painted black to represent sort of the negative space, because, you know, these are obviously supposed to be, Cranky isn't a solid, you know, thing. You know, these tower cranes are built up using all these different girders and beams or what have you. So I do wish that they would have maybe colored these in black. I think maybe that would have worked, or maybe they just thought that having a solid green color would be better. I don't know. Maybe somebody could do like a Photoshop or something to color these in to see what it looked like, but that's just me. These on the side, these are the wheels. These are the controls for his crane arm, and you can turn them either way. I think this works. You know, if you were to wind it out all the way and then keep going, the hook would eventually come all the way down and all the way back up. It makes that clicky noise. That is a little bit annoying, but to be honest, it works for Cranky. You know, it sounds like the crank that would operate the turn to raise and lower the hook. So it works. He does in the TV series. They use like a sound effect, a cranking sound effect, so it works quite nicely for that. But there's obviously his hook. I mentioned earlier that I had to pull on it a little bit. You know, it works just fine, but sometimes you have to pull on it. If he has like weight on it, like this cargo block, for instance, then it goes up and down perfectly fine. You don't have to do anything to it. But yeah, that's just that. I just wanted to be thorough. I wanted to say this as well. The wheels, these little the things I was turning, these little wheels, I've set this up. You can see that the handles on them are, you know, this one is lower, the other one is higher. You can actually do this. I used to do this a lot, is you can actually rotate them, you know, independently of one another so that you can have them level. I just personally prefer having them opposite one another. I don't know why, I just think it looks better to me. But there we are. I just wanted to show that. And then of course we can, that's the wrong way again, you can raise the hook all the way back up. So we'll just get that back out of shot and we will leave it there. So the final thing that I want to take a look at is the base. Cranky does actually come with his own piece of track and his own little base that he sits on. He is removable from it, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. He's a little bit stiff, but he does eventually come off. There we go. So we will go ahead and take a quick look at this. I know it's not the most interesting thing, but it is part of Cranky, so we'll take a quick look at it. Taking Cranky off, you're just left behind with this green square. And I will show this as well. You see these little holes on the side? If I bring Cranky back in really quick, you can just about see down there that there are these little tabs. And to be honest, I only just noticed this earlier when I was setting up for this, but you can't actually, if Cranky's, you know, the little cranks or whatever are facing toward the track, Cranky won't actually fit in. So those tabs actually help to line him up. So I literally didn't know that. I only knew that about 30 minutes ago when I was testing out for this discussion. So there's that little green plastic base that holds Cranky in. And there are some little details on here which are quite nice. I quite like the art style that they used on here. But over here, for instance, we got a crate with a chain. And on the other side, we've got some planks of wood. And all around them, we've got all these little stones or pebbles or whatever. It kind of makes it look like he's at a quarry more than a dockyard. But then there's the concrete plinth that I mentioned. There's also the Brio, I was going to say sticker, but it's not a sticker, it's actually printed on there. And if we were to take a quick look at that, I'm not sure if it's going to focus how well you're going to see it, but all the other Brio items that we've looked at in this series have had a Brio sticker where the date reads 1996. This one is actually 1999, so it's interesting to see something different for once. And I think that lines up. I think season 5, where Cranky's introduced, did air in '99, I do believe. So we'll go ahead and put Cranky back for just a moment, because there's one other thing to show. It's nothing amazing, it's just this that you saw Cranky holding at the beginning of the discussion. He does indeed come with a piece of cargo. It's just a red piece of semicircle wood. It's nothing amazing, but I do want to show this as well really quick. This is the equivalent of a cargo car from Brio. It's just a small black chassis with wheels and these two little spokes. And the underside of this piece of cargo has two little holes in it. And it also has just a single magnet on top. And very simply, it just fits on like that. So it creates an interesting looking thing. I don't care for these at all. I don't use them anymore in my series. I don't like them. I much prefer the regular cargo cars from the Thomas Wooden Railway line. But I wanted to show that nonetheless because this is part of Cranky. This is something that comes with him. So yeah, it's nice that he comes with a piece of cargo. He doesn't come with this though. I should make that clear. He does not come with this little cargo car. I'm not sure where this one came from. But he doesn't come with it. He just comes with this piece of cargo. And it's very basic, it's very simple, it's nothing to to look at. So we will move on to the last part of this discussion. So now that we've been up close and personal with Cranky, let's go ahead and take a general overview discussion of him. I really do like this model a lot. I think it looks pretty good. I think it's scaled quite nicely. The one thing I haven't mentioned up to this point though is the colour. Cranky is green in the TV series and obviously the CGI series, but he's not this green. He's not this bright fluorescent. Well, it's not really fluorescent, but it's just a very bright green. I don't particularly like the fact that he's this colour. It depends on the day, honestly. Sometimes I look at this and I think, yeah, that looks okay, but other times I think, no, it doesn't. It looks too bright. How I'm feeling right now, I don't mind it. But I will agree with people if they say that they don't like the colour. I personally, again, it depends on how I feel in the day, but I don't particularly like sometimes that he's this bright. He should be more dark green, but hey, at least he's green at all. The original Thomas Wooden Railway model, he's grey, which obviously isn't correct, and he's massive. I don't know why, but he's about twice the width, honestly, of this Brio model. So I quite like the look, the shape, the size of this Brio Cranky, but the colour does let it down just a tiny bit. And I'm guessing that the reason why is just because green is heavily associated with Brio, honestly. Most of the packaging features green heavily. A lot of the classic Brio items have a lot of green in them. A lot of them have like green roofs. A lot of the engines and rolling stock and whatever are green. So maybe I'm guessing that's why. But that's just how I feel. I just feel like this colour is a little bit wrong, but I do understand to a degree why they did it. I mentioned last week with Butch how I wouldn't have expected them to make Butch, considering that there's no model that they could have based him on. But honestly, I feel the exact opposite about Cranky. I would have been really surprised if they didn't make Cranky, seeing as a model of him already existed. As in, they made a tower crane model that looks almost it is identical to Cranky, save for the colour and the face. they made two versions. In fact, the old version was like blue, and I think it had a yellow cab, and then the newer version looks a lot better, looks more realistic. So I'm guessing that, they just took that, threw a face on it, recolored it, and called it a day. But, that's not to say that that's lazy. That's just clever reusing of existing assets. So let's talk about Cranky himself. Cranky is, well, this is slightly debatable, but Cranky is the first character introduced in the series that's not based on any from the Railway series. Now, you could argue that Smudger is the first one who was introduced in the previous season, but Smudger is based on, or takes the place of, a character from the Railway series from the same story, Grandpuff, who is simply referred to in the story as number 2, but I think he's referred to in, I think it's the island, the people in his history, I think he's referred to as Stanley. But he causes trouble, and the Thing Controller turns him into a generator. And obviously in the TV series adaptation, for whatever reason, they created their own character called Smudger that filled that role. But Cranky here isn't based on any existing character. He's a fully original character. He doesn't take inspiration from any previous one from the Railway series. So I consider him to be the first, non-Audrey character. And it's weird to me that in a show all about engines and what have you, and railways, that the first non-Audrey character is a static tower crane. I don't know why, but I just find that interesting to me. In fact, what's weird is Season 5 introduced several characters. You've got the lorries, Old Slow Coach, Thumper, Tiger Moth, Cranky, Butch. Not a single engine was introduced in that series. It wasn't until Series 6 that we got our first engine. Non-Audrey engine, I should say. And it wasn't even a steam engine, it was a diesel. But appropriately enough, that diesel obviously was Salty, who is very heavily associated with Cranky, given that they work together at the docks. And what's weird is that Cranky, of all the characters, I spent 10 minutes talking about Butch last week, but Cranky is one of the only two characters, with Butch being the other, that made it past Season 5 after his initial introduction. And he's become a mainstay ever since. Considering that the docks became a main location in the series, Cranky became very heavily involved. In fact, I don't think there's been a season since his introduction where he didn't have some sort of role, where he didn't speak or appear. And he's also appeared in almost every movie as well. So, yeah, for being a non-Audrey character, he's certainly made his impact. And I think one of the things I like most about him is that he is a very different sort of character. Not just in terms of shape, the fact that he's a crane, but also the fact that just his character, his personality is so different. He's not happy-go-lucky, he's not boastful or devious or whatever. He's cranky, he's a complainer, he's a moaner, all he does is just complain that the other engines, that they're not doing their job, that, he's working all the time, what have you. And to be honest, I sympathise with Cranky, because I think if I were just stuck in one place and all I could do was this, and just lift and lower things, and, be by the sea or what have you, then, yeah, you would end up being Cranky. And also that name, I have to point out, it's such a clever name. He is cranky by nature, just his personality, but also he's a crane. He cranks and what have you. So I think it's very, very clever. So for that reason alone, he is one of my favourite characters. And I just think it's incredible that, he appeared in Season 5 and after his introduction, and he's stuck around for a very long time. You can't say that about too many characters introduced after Season 4. In fact, even characters introduced during Seasons 1 through 4 that haven't had the time of day. But Cranky here obviously outlasted them all, and he's made an impact, and I think it shows. He's a great character, and the writers also really liked him, and I think he's unique, very interesting, and I like him a lot. I'm glad that he became such a prominent member of the cast. So I think that's going to wrap things up. That's my look at this model of Cranky made by Brio. As per usual, let me know down in the comments what you think of this model, and also Cranky himself. And yeah, that'll be it. So thank you all very, very much for watching this video, and I will see you next time for another Brio Thomas of Friends discussion. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all then.